6:30 and we'll start our work session. Do I need a gavel? But I have it, so I like it. Please stand and pledge of allegiance, and I've lost the flag. Okay.
There now.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we're going to start with our board and superintendent updates. And today we're going to start with our board. So Sadie, anything?
Wow, you just start the night off, don't I? Well, welcome to our newest member. We're super excited to have you. I'm super excited because sports have started. We've got cross country, football, and volleyball, right? I think that's right, Aaron, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm excited for that. I'm excited. Kids are back in the swing of things, and seeing everybody at school and stuff is really exciting, but I don't really have anything. I'm just excited, as you all know.
We also have golf and tennis.
Oh yeah, golf and tennis
Yes.
too. I knew there was another.
And swimming,
Oh, wow.
yes.
Where are they?
There's a lot
Swim?
going on.
So they practice at Gold's Gym, which is
Yeah.
Veteran Hill.
Uh-huh.
And we actually have a team it's us, I think it's Hawkinson, possibly the center. So it's a group of
That's
different
cool.
districts that we joined. And we're pretty excited about it. But our numbers are good this fall for swim.
Yeah.
And football won, right? Their first
Yeah,
game.
that's right.
Woo! Okay.
Good start.
So, yeah, good start. So. All I have.
Great. Jane, do you have any comments?
Just excited to be here.
That works. Chuck?
No comment.
Ida?
I don't have much more to add. I mean, it's the start of the year, so things are ramping up and yeah, fall is in the air.
Ball's in the air, yeah, the leaves are starting to turn already. I have only one thing, and that is something Ida raised about our board evaluations. And we do it after every meeting, an online evaluation, or not do them.
Yeah.
She raised the point that I second, which is they're not really very useful. And it turns out we are required to evaluate our meetings every meeting.
Yeah.
But the format of that evaluation is up to us, and I will take Ida's suggestion and propose that we look at those and make them, they've been in effect for probably 10 years at least. It'd be good if they were, I'm supportive of the concept of evaluating our board meetings, but having a useful evaluation would be much more valuable. So I'm hoping I can convince Corey to print something out and distribute it so we can look at it before the next workshop and maybe have a discussion on what would be useful.
Curiosity, who requires this?
According to Corey, it's some kind of a state requirement.
All the boards.
Corey Kelly.
I think all of Washington was it, I believe. My
It's worth
understanding.
further investigation.
Yeah.
In any event, yeah, I totally agree. That
Less than
if
useful.
we're going to evaluate, then something should come out of it that would help us to do better.
Right.
And the instrument that we have used for the last several years has not really lent itself to change.
Exactly.
So,
Or even reflection or anything. It's
yeah,
check.
so there's a challenge for somebody.
Understood. So the first thing we'll do is we'll investigate and find the statute, the language that specifies it's required. And then sounds like you are asking us to maybe come up with some potential questions
Or,
or
yeah,
the
maybe
template so you can see it, so you can give some
The
input.
board can
Yeah.
have input on, I mean, think about what would be
Yeah.
useful for
Yeah. feedback.
feedback. I think,
Yeah.
The question of whether everyone is treated courteously is useful. But I've had to answer negative in the past, but had not for a while, and that's been good. And I think the question on whether everyone had an opportunity to speak is useful, but I think it's worth all of us just thinking about what kind of evaluation questions would make us do a better job as a school board. And there's no hurry on it, I don't think. But finding out for sure whether it really is an RCW type requirement would be valuable.
Good, yeah, we got that.
Okay, that's my comment. And superintendent.
All right,
Hanson.
thank you. So I am going to share my screen. I thought there was so much that happened last week. And I wanted to share some pictures with you as I talk through just my thoughts. So you have it in front of you. There's a number of slides there for each one of these. And we'll start with, so this is several pictures from Friday night, which was a game that we hosted against Mountain View. And we weren't supposed to host that game. It was supposed to be at the Evergreen Stadium, McKenzie Stadium.
Yeah.
And so we originally weren't going to have that game here. We also had a goalpost. One of the uprights that fell off because we had a windstorm 2 weeks before. And so that windstorm, the left, as you're facing the upright, the left one fell down. And so we knew we had to repair that before we could host. So a number of things basically needed to happen for us to host. And so let's start with the goalpost. Don O'Brien, who's our medals CTE teacher, who's been a long time employee and resident, came through. And it required him to, I think, call in some favors, some people that he knew, to make sure that we were able to host this game on Thursday afternoon. We didn't think we were gonna be able to have the goalpost. It didn't mean we were gonna have the game. We were still gonna agreed we were gonna have the game because there was nowhere else to have the game. We had a like lack of referees. So in the county, there were a number of games that were happening. So there were games that played on Saturday because there weren't enough officials in the county that, I think there was also the heat index and the air quality. So there were a lot of things going on late in the week. So anyway, Don O'Brien and his team came through. Brian Wild, our athletic director, did a great job making sure that we could host it, which means what needs to happen is you have to have teams, like the team taking gate, the tickets. Our cheerleaders had to set up. We had to have a chain crew. So the whole team that's required to be able to host a game in about a 36-hour period of time, we had to organize. So when you look up there, you see the goalpost on the left. On the far right, those are the some of our community members, dads that helped get the tunnel ready. And it was a beautiful night. You see the scoreboard. So that's a brand new scoreboard. So there's two, it was a donation and then some funds that we had, then donation that really helped us with this situation. And for a number of years, we've talked about replacing the scoreboard. So we did it, we made it happen. And what you see on there, it says we show up. In the next picture, I'll talk about that. So it was well attended. We won the game, which is a great way to start. And I was just so proud that, we delivered. And as I was sharing with a few people, like all that goes into being able to host an event like this, there's so much work that went into this. And it's because people care, they're committed to this district, and they made it happen. And it was just a beautiful night. So really appreciate, yes, go ahead.
Question about the goalpost, is that now secure so that it's not a
yes, exactly. So, yep.
liability?
Good question. Yeah. So Don made sure in the equipment that they put in or that was fabricated, they made sure that it's going to last for a long time as it is. So yeah, and I could provide more detail on that. But yeah, and it did take probably a week to get it to the point where we could do this, and it was just a matter of putting it back together, which he had to work overtime to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the scoreboard, we show up is the high school. That is really their message this year, and that's the theme. And I'm looking forward to hearing from the team at the high school and to see the students really engage in this and embrace this. And during the football game, I was standing next to Mark Castle, who's our principal, and we heard the students chanting, "We show up." And so they happened to be, they had a bunch of, they were wearing white. I think every game they make a decision what they're going to wear. And so there was a lot of activity, a lot of energy. And so, yeah, it's a really important part of starting the school year off. And I had watched the week before the assembly, or excuse me, Tuesday, they had an assembly, all school assembly. They were practicing, getting ready at this all school assembly that was in the stadium.
Love it.
So then visited a lot of classrooms Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And so this was just what I kind of put together, what I learned from the observations that I had made. I was in multiple buildings multiple times. And so what I've shared here is what I noticed in the classrooms that I went into was this focus on relationship building. And I saw that in different ways in different classrooms. One of the examples was at CRG. It was Ms. Gustafson and students. When I walked in there, the students each had a piece of paper and they were going around identifying how they're similar and they were taking names down. This was like on the first day of school. So in name recognition and then, who likes camping and who has a dog and who various ways that they're connecting. And I actually got to participate in that. And I didn't have my own sheet, but I did give my name to several students on the things that related to me. So enjoyed that and I was encouraged to participate. I saw math, I could not believe so early in the school year, this focus on math. In a 4th grade class, I went across the hall to a 5th grade class and saw 2 math activities. They were different. They were both engaging. Students in one classroom, students were in 2 large groups. In the other classroom, they were in small groups. And what they did in the 5th grade classroom is they have these storage units that Tracy was involved in purchasing these. They're a storage unit that when you turn it around, there's a whiteboard on the back. And so they were in small groups. They all had access to the whiteboard and they were modeling a particular math problem. So that was really early in the school year, seeing that as math as an emphasis for us, welcoming and positive. The classrooms I would walk into, in many cases, the teachers would just stop. We have a guest. Do you know who this is? Which I really haven't had that kind of intro before. So do you know who this person is? And we're a special guest. And so it happened to work out really well with Ellen Hines' class, which is our 3-4 split at CRG. And so this cooperation picture there that you see. So when I walked in, they had just been finishing. Each student had a part of a letter. So each letter was broken up into 2 pieces. Each student got to color the letter. Then what they did is without speaking, they needed to find their partner. And then they taped their letter together and then they taped it on here. And so this was the idea of setting up the expectations. And so this 3rd, 4th classroom, and she asked, Ms. Hine asked 2 students to share like what was the activity, why did we do it, and then she introduced who I was. And one of the students said, "So really, you're the principal of the district," because Ms. Hartman is the principal of the building. Said, "Yes, that's right, that's good." And then the student said, "Do you like to tell people what to do?" And I paused. I thought, well, how am I going to connect this? And Ms. Hine helped me connect it to cooperation. She said, well, my experience with Mr. Hansen is that he's all about collaborating and really trying to work together. So it was a nice tie into the message. And then they put this cooperation sign above the door, that was their choice. So really appreciated what I saw. And then down further mentioning the whole school assembly was at the high school. It was led by the students. And if you can imagine a staff that has about 60 adults, and there were some that were right in there with the students, and then there were some that were like a little further away, and then there were some that were further away, and some that were quite a ways away from this, and different levels of participation by them as they were dancing and jumping and doing cheers. So that's pretty typical for high school staff. But yeah, so a lot of energy, and I'm hearing this positive energy and optimistic. And this isn't just in Washougal. I've also heard this from other superintendents. There's this feel, right? That's really positive feel. So we really appreciate that. And then just an encouragement for student collaboration. Saw that multiple times, small groups, student working in pairs, and larger groups. Okay. Now we're going to move to enrollment, something we've talked a lot about, and you've heard a lot about in the spring. What is our projected enrollment? So what I've shared with you is a table that has the budget amount. So the process that we used last year and looking as students go from kindergarten to 1st grade, 3rd grade to 4th grade, 8th grade to 9th grade, over the course of several years, what does it look like our trend is with students returning? So we use this process. And what we determined, if you look at the budget amount for each school, that we thought we'd have about 2,500, about 2,530, right? 2,530 students would show up last week. And so what ended up happening is we ended up based on our count, which is on Friday, and school started on Tuesday, but on Friday, our count was 2,464. Now that's under that amount, but when we add in our TK students who they aren't here on the first week, right? So we then will add our 80 students, which is 80 FTE, and that's that larger number is 2,543. So we feel good about that number. That was we talked before, cautiously optimistic. And I was actually kind of hoping that we would have more students than that, but that is, we're right around where we projected. So that's where we budgeted, meeting all of our staffing decisions. And when we set up building budgets and we look at that, that's what we base those decisions on.
So based on the 25-30 number?
Exactly, 25-30, yes. So, pretty good. We'll still see typically in October, so September, October, and even possibly November, we'll still see more students come in historically. And then what we see is this trend from December through June, where we start to lose students. And so that's all factored in when we look at our AAFTE, which is across the entire year, what our average FTE is going to be for student enrollment in determining our budget. So again, we're optimistic about this number. Again, talking this to building or district superintendents around the county, pretty similar what they were saying. Some a little bit more, some a little bit less. All are budgeting conservatively, and that process that we use, it really is important on how we set, what we're going to be spending based on our revenue.
Do you know if other schools or districts, do they also have transitional kindergarten? Or
Yes,
do a lot
many
of
do.
that? Okay.
Many do, not all of them.
I just never.
I know, yeah, so I know Lewis Center does not,
Okay.
Hawkinson does,
Okay.
probably most of the Vancouver,
Hubbardston has several.
several, yes.
Where Camas has.
That's what I thought.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so it just
Just
depends.
curious, yeah.
Yep, and again, we have one in each elementary school, which I think
Yeah.
is fantastic.
Awesome.
And we really feel good about that. And they're full, they're 20, which is the cap that we've established.
Yeah. I'm
And
excited.
then each TK has a certificated staff member and a para educator.
Yeah.
Do you have a question?
A question that's related to enrollment, and that's attendance, and reading about nationwide attendance issues and Washington standing out in the country for poor attendance. We had some discussion last year because it seemed to be an issue, and I wonder whether it's too early to really talk about it because first week, but whether we have a plan or any plans on how we can improve student attendance.
Yeah, so I think typically our planning starts with what's required and making sure that we're meeting the requirements of the truancy laws. And so I actually had a conversation with Amanda Clackner today about setting up the communications that are going to go out to families regarding the process on the different letters that go out based on about attendance. We talked about the steps when, for example, when a student, we file for truancy, and then the plan that we put in place isn't effective. And then the next step to that. So we kind of reviewed what the process is. And so so we're planning on looking at, what's required
Yeah,
by statute. And then our process in supporting students and establishing relationships and what I just kind of shared, like that also is a part of it. So
Right.
students feel a sense of belonging and
well, a carrot
and
and a stick.
encouragement.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that they feel safe, they feel supported, it's inclusive. And so those types of intentional strategies are effective. So, other than that, we are,
I mean, it's a little bit out of our control, except I think providing that welcoming environment. I mean, a stick is a little late. And state standard or not, the student that's not present is not learning.
yes,
And any carrots we can throw into to make kids want to come to school. I don't know. I
Yep.
have no
Yes.
suggestion, just I know it's
Yeah.
an issue statewide and nationwide, and I think we're on the right path as far as providing that kind of environment that helps our school kids want to be there.
yes.
And
I think, what you're saying, looking at our data, comparing our data to other school districts and maybe determining what is it, maybe if we see a district that has a much better attendance, like what exactly
What
are they doing?
Yeah.
And so we've been focusing on ourselves and our data. We have not in August, we didn't look at a lot of attendance. We were more looking at our state assessment results
Right.
in our planning and then what we were planning the first week. So we are now, our principals are working with their teams on their data that state just released on, the report card,
Okay.
assessment results.
Take a look
We're
at
waiting for attendance to be, shared, as well as discipline data. Some of the data we're gonna be looking at, and you're gonna be hearing from principals. So that is now being published.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how the timeline works. Like we have all summer, you think, to plan, but really we don't have access to the
Data,
to the report of the data that's reported and shared. So we are now working on that. That's what September is about. And all staff are back. So we're building those plans and looking at individually. Yesterday, we had a meeting with building administrators and we looked at our data as a district. And what are we working on? What do we notice? We follow the protocol. And so we're going to continue to look at our data. Now, when we see there's districts that are doing something that looks like, gosh, we want to know more about that, then we can access them. There's a really good chance that they're going to partner with us and share information if that is the case. But we are certainly concerned about.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it seems
Here
like
and-
addressing the attendance issue would almost automatically improve the test score issue.
Yeah.
Because every kid ends up taking the test, I presume,
Yes.
and if they missed 30 days, they're probably not going to do as well as they might. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions about enrollment? So we will continue to provide updates in each board meeting, and not necessarily projected enrollment, but just how we're doing. Yeah. Okay. So another thing I want to talk about that's really gaining attention, it has been for several months.
Yeah.
And specifically here, it was an article in the Post Record recently on cell phones. So I think you've seen what I've seen is, nationally, we're seeing more districts making a move with limiting or eliminating the use of cell phones for students for a variety of reasons. And so what I've shared with you is information from the high school, Jump to Guard, and then the bottom left corner is just from Mr. Healy on what's in their handbook. And so if you go to high school, you'll notice that your phone will be silenced. I think it says friendly reminder posters in front of every classroom and throughout the building, just reminding students of the importance of basically stowing their phones and keeping them out of sight. And so Jump to Guard, Mr. Cook had sent out some of his earliest communication about the parent square, talking about this expectation and early signs. He's pretty optimistic. And he says he feels pretty good. Up until today, today there was no cell phone violation. So we had 4 days last week, and then yesterday and today. So and he realizes that there's going to be cell phone violations, but he feels it's a really good start. There's been a little bit of concern regarding safety, and if something is happening in the building, and families be able to get in touch with their students. And we're just encouraging them, and we talk about our protocol and what's going on. Context matters. And there's times where we're gonna want our students not to be using their phones during a drill, during a lockdown. And there's lots of reasons for that. We'll talk to them about that. I talked to a parent today whose student reached out to her and said, "Hey, can you come get me?" And the parent said, "Well, yes, but you need to go to the office and call me."
That's good.
And I was just it's things, it's like that, right? That's really helpful. That's the partnership between the families and the school on this expectation. And so that was just, I just have to hear that. I thought that, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because that is really, that helps us, that reinforces what we're asking our students to do and our families to do. And that was Mr. Cook's message about students, and they can persevere through many of things that they experience, but they're always welcome to come to the office and call. And then we're never going to say no to a student who wants to do that. So what you'll notice is some consistency across the secondary. This really is a secondary concern with the use of cell phones. It doesn't mean it's not a problem in elementary, but majority of the time, it's the 6-12 is where we're seeing cell phone use and
Well, especially the social.
earbuds
media
and
stuff,
yeah, so, you know, the big idea is to mitigate distractions. We want students to focus on what they're learning. We want students to work collaboratively together. And it's really hard when you're not paying attention
Distracted,
and you're
yeah.
distracted. So it is really that basic, is we want them to be able to hear what's going on, be able to focus on the learning, work collaboratively with their teachers, with the educators and with the students. So I'm hearing again anecdotally that it's making a difference so far. Less distractions and students just actually one individual teacher said, it's a lot louder in here. And I kind of figured out that's because students are talking.
That's awesome.
So
Don't put your buttons in.
yeah, they're not, yeah, exactly. So we're going to continue to encourage and enforce our expectations. We actually have a policy that is supportive of what we're doing. And so we appreciate that. I know we've talked about, do we want to update our policy?
Reviewing
And
it,
certainly,
yeah.
yeah, review it. And then I believe that
Pretty
WASDA is
soon.
going to be coming out with an update. I shared you information about a House bill that didn't pass, that was around asking the state superintendent to actually mandating the state
Yes.
superintendent to come up with a process to mitigate it and to reduce cell phone use. So feel really good about the start of the year and making this a priority in a way. And we really haven't asked the students, how, and we need to, and we will ask our student reps. One of the first questions is like, so what do you think about these expectations?
Yeah,
Thank
I look
Yeah.
forward to hearing from the student.
Yeah,
reps.
me too.
And I've heard from
Particular-
other superintendents in the county that are going through a similar process. And one in particular shared, I'm hearing from students that this school district started sooner than we did, that they actually appreciate it. And they aren't going to tell you that publicly.
Right.
This is like in a private conversation. Thank you. Because, wearing a hood, for example, one of the reasons they're wearing a hood is because they don't want someone to take a picture of them without their permission. And so just that, not wanting to then be exploited that way,
Yeah,
right? So,
I would have never thought.
yeah, and then our policy talks about, the.
privacy.
Yeah, privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A question about the elementary schools, do they have policies as well, or it's just kind of under the radar at the elementary?
They do, yeah, and I didn't share those, but I can share with you.
I'm just curious to see what they look like around the district, and I think it'd be valuable just in our thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then second to comment, I think particularly during lockdowns, that the lack of cell phone noise saved kids in that Georgia school shooting, and it just reinforced my view that cell phones are great. I didn't get one until 2002. I was a little late in the game, but they're not great in school.
Right, and that scenario that you described, right, that's when we drill, doors are locked, lights are off, and it's silent.
And if the-
And our
the
first
phones are already
responders know that.
silent, yeah,
Yeah, and anything that makes noise, then is going to let someone know that there's somebody in there.
right. That's
So
great.
that's why we don't want them to be used.
Right.
In those scenarios.
Can I ask
Thank
one
you.
quick question?
Sure.
What is the caddy? Do we know what that is for the high school?
Yeah, so a phone caddy would be where they put their phone, they store the phone,
Okay,
and yeah.
so does each classroom have that?
No.
No, okay.
Yeah, so I
okay,
think that they are working on, they have one
Okay,
prototype.
that's what I
caddy,
that's what I
which is
thought.
where
It's
they're
like,
gonna go,
I think
yes,
it's
and
those,
that
okay.
is, if you were to research this, you would see phone bags. you would
Right.
See
It's
phone caddies, and
expensive,
phone
too.
lockers, and we really would prefer that students put them away in their own bags, right? This is an expensive piece of equipment. And it's theirs, like, we really don't want to take them from them.
Yeah.
That is one of the options, if a student is not, meeting the expectations in the high school to put them in the
Yeah.
phone caddy, which then they're secure. It's just, that's not the first choice. We
Yeah,
want them
doing
to
it
be responsible,
Wholesale.
and so that's what that is. And
Okay.
and
I
there's companies that are providing all sorts of different creative ways.
I
And I
don't
just think
think
it's not, I think the best way is just to put it in your bag and keep it away.
So,
Yeah.
sounds it. Yeah, thank you.
So more conversation to be had. We'd like to have our principals share some of their insights with you in October.
And the students, I'm so excited to hear what the students
Yeah.
have to say.
Yeah.
I don't know why, I just think, because cell phones weren't around when I was
It's
a
them,
kid, so it's
yeah.
just like this
Yes.
whole new thing in that book that you've told me about. I
The
started,
anxious generation.
wow,
Yes.
Yeah.
that's intense.
Yeah.
I highly suggest people read that
Yeah.
book especially if you're a parent.
Agree.
And I think from the board perspective, I think all of us want to make it clear to our administrators and teachers that we are behind them on
Mhm.
implementing what they need.
Great, thank you.
And you mentioned our board policy and you've been referencing that. And they are following the board policy. The middle policy, I think it's a good
It covers it.
Agreed. Yep, it is a good one. And I believe there will be revisions. And I think that, you know, when they are, our typical process is WASDA shares with the revisions. And so whether and Woodland has gone through this process.
Right.
And they were referencing another school district that had just recently updated there. So what I appreciate is this is a movement that's consistently moving through the state of Washington and other states as
Whole country,
well. And
yeah.
it's understanding and I appreciate your support. I know our administrators appreciate it. And when we have a family that has a concern, just like Mr. Cook shared with me, he reached out to the individual and shared, this is why. And to work through that, understand that person's perspective. And he said it was a good conversation.
So the next page is later in the agenda, it looks like. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that it for your?
Yes. That was it for my
Okay,
update.
thank you, Superintendent Hanson.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is to welcome Jane to the board. We've all done that already, but we'll do it again and to turn over to Aaron to administer the oath of office.
Yes, Jane, this is so exciting. Before we're gonna, as I mentioned earlier, we're gonna go up, stand in front of the board directors and then in front of the camera as we go through this process. But I just so appreciate your interest in being a part of this team. And this is, as you're aware, this is a big job, a lot of responsibility, and we are excited to have you. Looking forward to get to know you and just know that you're gonna do great in this role.
Thank you. It's been great getting to know everybody a little bit over the last week. I appreciate it.
Yeah, all right. And Les is gonna be taking some photos.
Of course he is.
Yes, okay. This works, or we got it down over there?
This so trying.
Okay, are you ready?
I am.
Repeat after me. I, Jane Long, do solemnly swear
I, Jane Long, do solemnly swear
that I am a citizen of the United States and of the state of Washington.
that I am a citizen of the United States and of the state of Washington,
That I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the constitutional laws of the state of Washington.
and the constitutional laws of the state of Washington,
And will, to the best of my judgment,
and will to the best of my judgment,
skill, and ability,
skill, and ability,
truly, faithfully, diligently,
truly, faithfully, diligently,
and impartially perform the duties of the office of board director
and impartially perform the duties of the office of the Board of Director
of the Washougal School Board
for the Washougal Schools
in and for Clark County
in and for Clark County
and Skamania County, Washington,
and Skamania County, Washington,
as such duties are prescribed by law.
as such duties are prescribed by law.
That was smooth, you guys.
Isn't that
That's
smooth?
good.
Yeah.
Smoothly.
I was so nervous about that. It's official.
All right,
You're stuck with me.
welcome aboard.
Might be good with it, but-
Yes, yeah, there are signatures at the conclusion of this.
Okay, a couple of executive responsibilities. So responsibility one, global executive constraint. Aaron?
Yes, thank you. So ER1, and Jane, have 17 executive responsibilities. And so over the course of this year, we will present at various board meetings our ERs. And so you'll always get a copy of it Thursday or Friday before to prepare and see if you have any questions. And then typically we will have a presentation. Sometimes those are longer, sometimes those are shorter, depends on the ER. And so this particular one, ER1, a global executive constraint. So I'm just going to read a little summary. Executive responsibility one ensures the superintendent maintains the district's public image by ensuring all practices are lawful, ethical, safe, and respectful. The superintendent must prevent actions that violate laws, policies, or district credibility, and regularly update the board on key issues and achievements. This policy emphasizes the superintendent's role in modeling professional behavior and ensuring compliance with laws and board policies. So I'm not sure if you have any questions about ER1. And I promise I will stop saying this at some point, like new in this role, and not necessarily having a lot of exposure to this one in a previous role. I do appreciate this ER, and I think about globally, the idea of all of our policies, statute we're required to follow. So the training that we do early when staff are here, making sure that they're aware of policies and procedures that are specific to their work and that are required, to me modeling professional behavior and what do I expect from all staff in supporting our students and our families. Any questions?
Questions, you guys?
Oh,
It's a
man.
pretty straightforward one.
Thank you, Aaron.
All right.
Yeah.
How about number
Chuck, do you have anything?
2?
Well, a general comment
Okay,
is that our policies are all of the policies are generated by the State School Directors Association, and our superintendent job description, and our superintendent evaluation process. It has all come to us from a global perspective. And so as we go through these documents, I would really like to see us focus on some areas, because it's a shotgun approach that follows a generic superintendent job description that's several pages long, and then there's all this stuff, and there's a lot of it. I don't know how you can do it, but
a lot of
we'd
stuff.
like to know what you will be focusing on.
yes.
And I think you would like to know what we would like you to focus on.
Yes.
So that's just a general comment on the whole process.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's a really good point. And the idea of how do the ERs connect with the superintendent's evaluation and our board policies, because sometimes these ERs, there's specific policies that are easy to identify. Sometimes it's more challenging. So as I go over my goals, what I'm planning on later on, I think I will hit that. But as you had just mentioned, like specifically, one of the things that I'm working on regarding ER1 is how we communicate, and whether it's one-on-one, whether it's by email, if it's 2-on-1, making sure that because I want to make sure that all board members have access to that information, and that I'm not sharing specific information with one board member and not others. So trying to figure out how can I do that in a way that's reasonable. And I've talked to other superintendents, Jeff Snell being one, and how he has really kind of attacked that particular situation. And so I have some ideas that I will be presenting later with you as far as where does information, where's it housed? Just so you're aware of what's going on, and maybe what other board members are hearing.
Mhm.
And we've been working on quite a bit, our process for when we need to know something immediately. And you know before others know. And in that process that we use, so you have that information. Okay.
And along the lines of course, superintendent communications, I really appreciate your weekly
Yeah.
notes to us about what's going on.
Me too.
Very, very helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I know there's a lot of information in there, and when there's links, and so I choose those articles wisely, and to know that you are also busy. I appreciate that. The feedback, and when you respond to me, that you don't have to do it every time, but every once in a while when you do that, it does help me. And if you have feedback, please give me feedback on that.
I really appreciate
Okay,
those.
thank you.
Okay, executive responsibility 2. We kind of went through this, I think, over the summer.
We did.
The emergency superintendent succession. So
Yes,
anything
yeah, and
to add to that?
I want to just revisit, really, Jane, this is one that we talked about in June. And so I'd like to just, in a similar way, go over it and see if she has any questions. Yeah, okay, so emergency superintendent succession. So ER2 ensures continuity of district operations in the event of the superintendent's or interim superintendent's absence. The interim superintendent is responsible for training qualified staff to assume duties temporarily and developing an approved plan for interim leadership. This plan includes identifying staff who can maintain district operations and support the school board until permanent replacement is secured. And so in this particular situation, if something were to happen to me, Les Brown is going to be in the interim role. And so I have a lot of confidence in Les. I've worked with Les for a long time. This really was an easy decision in identifying Les. And I had talked to Mary about that previously before we made the decision. And so definitely know that he has an incredible knowledge of the district, knows a lot of staff members because he's been here a great deal of time and he's supported a lot of staff members. So it's his knowledge, his experience, and his understanding of our processes that I believe he is the right choice. And I know that Tracy, Connor, Margaret, and Les we meet weekly. We go over what's happening in the district. And so those meetings are on Monday. And so the idea of them being trained, we're constantly in communication and updating each other. And we have basically a process that we use for these formal meetings, but then also we're constantly in communication on updating each other on what's going on. So I guess I did have a few things to say about that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda is the board and superintendent goals review and discussion. And I will turn it over to Aaron again. We do this every.
Yeah, so every year, yes, every
Yeah.
fall, this time, we look at the board goals. And so last year you identified effective instruction and stewardship of resources. And so in your packet, I believe, possibly is our strategic plan. Do you have a copy of the strategic plan?
Not.
Maybe not. Okay, so.
I have it on my computer.
Okay, so yeah, so we identified, last year you identified of our 6 pillars, you identified those 2. So we have effective instruction, career and college readiness, equity, engagement in and beyond the classroom, partnerships to support students, and stewardship of resources. So if we just start with stewardship of resources, I think that's probably been 2 consecutive years, if not 3, given our current reality. I think it also isn't just about our fiscal reality, but just being, conscious about what we're spending on and how we take care of our property and those decisions. So I think this time, you sharing your thoughts about, possibly doing those 2 again, or do you want to, maybe identify a few others? We've chosen 2, I believe, the last couple of years. It doesn't mean that you can't choose 3 or isolate on one. It really is up to you what your thoughts are. My current opinion, stewardship of resources continues to make a lot of sense, given what transpired in the spring and where we are now. And then effective instruction, that's really everything we're about.
Yeah.
Is supporting our
My words
students.
exactly, yeah. But why don't we just go around and see what people think? Chuck, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I have Chuck start this time.
There's a lot here to absorb. I'm looking at the interim superintendent goals for this year. And also the self goal and social goal. And I wonder how they all fit within this other frame.
Right. Right. Yeah, so that's, and when I identified, so what he's referencing is the 4 standards of the 8 standards that I identified. And then for our staff, I've asked them all staff to have a self goal and a social goal. And I think that's new to our employees. That isn't something I think that's been asked. And so I can hit on those later. When I looked at the 4 that I identified, I was thinking about what you have prioritized previously regarding student learning and stewardship of resources. So the 4 that I identified standards of my evaluation, 1 specifically aligns well with stewardship of resources. And so let me get to mine. Actually, I'm going to share my screen so I can see it. So standard seven, operations and management, I believe is the one that aligns well to stewardship of resources. Standard 3 aligns well to student learning. And so those two, I feel like those two, and these standards, and I think Chuck has a copy, I think you all received a copy. Each standard has individual indicators under that, and each one of those indicators has a rubric, and it's a 4-point scale. And so what I'll be looking at is not only identifying evidence for you of me, I think, hitting the mark, but also where I feel like I'm falling, whether it's distinguished or basic, based on the rubric. So proficient and of the force scale. So as far as Chuck, is you're asking, identified community of care in support for students specifically, because I also feel like us creating a safe, inclusive, supportive environment for our students and for our staff is really important. And so, and I was actually talking to a superintendent earlier this morning about because it's, and you mentioned it's a complicated evaluation. There's a lot there to try to provide. It's similar to the teacher's evaluation and a lot of criteria and standards. So he shared that the term is called focused. When you focus on of the 8 standards, maybe, which is what Mary had previously been doing too, listening at 2 of those and really trying to provide evidence and improvement based on those 2. So I identified 4 just because of what I'm trying to accomplish this year in this role, which is the 2 that I've added, the community of care, support for students, for the reasons I just shared, and then meaningful engagement of families and community. I'm getting a sense, I'm hearing that there's a need to reestablish trust, to open the lines of communications. You've been leading that with our events where we invite the community in. I think that's really been helpful, having listening tours. I think me going out individually and intentionally seeking out individuals or groups and just trying to open those lines of communication. And I'm focusing on listening and my own listening strategies. I have a tendency to prepare what I'm going to say without really even listening. So I'm really working on being intentional in listening. And I think that I think this is going to help. What I'm going to be reaching out to individuals specifically, and then also establishing partnerships with whether it's an individual or groups. And I think that is something that we're, partnerships, relationships, and leadership is really kind of the focus that I have. So back to your question, connecting it to either the 2 that we've been focusing on, which is stewardship of resources and student learning. I think that what I'm proposing in my evaluation and in essence, my entry plan is going to align well to those 2. And then I was looking at of the other pillars, like what else might align to those. And this is where I want to get your feedback. If you wanted to add another one of the guiding pillars or move away from the 2 we've identified.
Well, we're kind of talking about 2 things, the board goals and
Yes.
superintendent goals, and they certainly should be aligned. Personally, we put a lot of thought into choosing those 2 goals. And I'm comfortable with those, but we all should weigh in on that. I think,
Yeah.
instruction and money, that's a lot of what the board is responsible for, ensuring that we do the best that we can. But
I agree with you 100% on that. That would be my,
I don't,
yeah.
so we'll set that as our board goals, those 2 pillars.
Yeah.
And then I agree with what you're saying that,
Yes.
this is your bailiwick. I caution you not to get too carried away on having too many goals, but these all align with effective instruction and achievement and stewardship of resources. And in terms of the outreach, I think I really applaud that. I think outreach to the community, since we're going to be going up for another levy in whatever 2 or 3 years, And likewise outreach with our staff, because we're going to be going up for contract negotiations again this year. And I think I would love to see a way that we involve our staff in the budget planning process so that they understand better how it works. When I go back to that kind of family planning, there is a cost of living, there's a consumer price index that goes up. In a family, you get so many dollars and you can't overspend it. And I think the more that our staff understand that we don't have the money, the legislature has the money, and we need to be more effective in working together to lobby the legislature to give us the resources that we require to do what you all do. As opposed to I'm glad that Vancouver reached a settlement without a strike, but a strike to me means there was a breakdown in communication and understanding that was not resolvable. And I hope we're able to continue avoiding labor management
Thank you.
strife.
Yep,
So that's my comment.
I
but didn't
agree.
mean to
Any
interject.
other thoughts?
I agree with this, and I think you being, new, and I think you being out there and, reconnecting, because you've been here for a long time, but you're in a new role, and I think, we're all, this is a kind of,
Pretty new.
I mean, we're all pretty new too, so I think that my own personal, looking at this, I align what I want for our district with what you want, so curriculum is always going to be number one. And budget, obviously, we need money to be able to teach. So, but I think connecting with our community is always really important. So I think good.
I'm aligned. I read through these before the meeting, and I think they're really good. I don't know how you're gonna create new ones that are better than this when these are over in the air.
Yeah.
Right.
well,
Thanks for bringing that up. And Wes actually had a quick conversation today about our strategic plan and looking at a timeline. And so, yeah, we will be talking more about what does that process look like. We, prior to, when we did this 6 years ago, we didn't have a template like we have now. And as we're talking about what pillars are we identifying, associating those with goals, like, achievable goals.
Yeah.
And so there's some work to be done with, so what are our goals if we're looking for incremental improvement each year? So, and when we talked to you, in October about the ends report, we identified data and where we're moving the direction we want to and where we aren't necessarily, and what are we gonna do about it. So that's coming up, and we'll continue to be talking about our strategic plan. And again, getting community feedback about that. And I appreciate what you just said about feedback from staff regarding the budget.
Yeah.
As they are directly impacted by our budget and the process that we've been following. So.
I mean, I went through a significant budget cut in a former role when I was still working, and it went as smoothly as possible, primarily because it was a science division, so 10 science departments and their chairs, but they were involved in analyzing and strategizing about the reality of how much money, in that case, we got from the state to run the show. And it went as smoothly as possible. So I think that's important. Heidi, you got any comments?
Not really. I mean, I just look at the achievement numbers that we have in the old plan. I also don't want to be too prescriptive, because
I agree.
we have school improvement plans. And so, you want the administrators to have a little leeway.
Yes.
So balancing, having a vision, but not telling people how necessarily to the nth degree.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. And that is really our work. And so, and we're constantly discussing, the continuity from TK to 12, and then from elementary for elementary schools, like what are those practices that are gonna get the results that we want? And then, but each one of them is his own community. And so not designing the lesson of the SIP plan for them, like that's their work with their
Right.
teams, and a lot of our resources are in our people. That's where the action is. And they're the ones who are going to make it happen. So supporting them and having them have a say in the work that's happening in the building, but also there are best practices. There are results that will, because of strategies that are being used. And we're working on those, identifying what those are. And then doing more of that. So, okay, so I think we're, yeah.
I'm gonna plant a seed.
Yes.
On our strategic plan. It's a little off topic, but I just want to plant a seed. And that, I see this no nurture challenge is what we do with our students. It's what we do with our staff as well. And there's a word that's missing for me on that, and that is inspire. And the word challenge has many meanings. I can challenge you to a duel. I'm not going to, but for me, the word inspire is something that our teachers are in a position to do for kids of all ages, to inspire them to achieve. It goes hand in hand with challenge perhaps, but I'm just going to plant that seed for future discussion.
Right. Any other thoughts? Okay, so so I've identified 4, and then I just want to say just like a quick plug for having a self-goal and a social goal. Just a reminder, we're asking all of our staff to do this. It was a part of the social emotional learning emphasis in August. And when I think about this, and this is, I think in many ways, this is a big ask for all staff. And there's a number of tools we've used to just self-assess. There's some that are provided by Smart Health, which is a part of SEB, which is our insurance. And like just looking at your health, and it's important. And to separate myself as an educator from me as a father, as a husband, is really challenging for me. And so it's I am who I am, and I know that I'm a better educator and father and husband when I'm healthy, and I'm working on it, and I'm setting goals. And so that's what this is. I'm asking staff to participate in this and to have a self goal, and mine is a physical goal. I just know, and we were talking about it before we started, like how much better I feel when I exercise consistently, and how much more creative I am. So that's what I'm going to be working on, because I'm a better person to be around when I'm healthier, and I'm focused on a little bit on me so every day I can be here and I can do the work that's required. And then the social is I say like active listening. That's just something I want to work on. And this year it's kind of hard to measure. I've got to figure out how to measure that in my role. I'm not exactly sure what that necessarily looks like. The collaborative problem solving is something that brings structure, and we have specific board policies for civility, or a complaint versus a staff member, a program, or a resolution of a complaint or concern. So following that and putting a little bit of consistent structure, because that's 3 policies with processes around how do we problem solve, how do we find solutions. And I really appreciate in the document we're going to be going over next is just about communication. And when you receive a complaint as a board member, the process you follow is very important for us, this line of communication. And it's not because we don't want to, as the interim superintendent, I don't want to deal with it, but I want to get to where the action is. Like, where did it happen? Where was the harm done? Where's the concern? That's where the solution is going to be. I've been sharing with people this fall, like, you don't want me problem solving something that I can't make sure that it happens from where I am. So we'll talk a little more about that. So anyway, that's why we have a self goal and a social goal. And I look forward to hearing how staff provide that. So thank you.
I appreciate in particular the life-work balance as a goal, and having family members that work in different districts in which the life-work balance was different. I think part of our goal is to hire the best teachers and keep them. And that's an important aspect of keeping our staff,
Retaining them,
retaining
supporting
and keeping them happy and
Yeah.
doing the best that they can. So I just appreciate that.
Yeah.
One of the goals.
And students look at that, if their teachers or their superintendent and they're happy, healthy, what a great role model.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's just, to me, in my experience, if I saw a teacher that was happy, healthy, I've been taking care of myself, I'm eating well, I'm doing, that's what a great role model. That's why I want to be teaching my kids. Just a little.
Okay, is that it on
That
the
is.
goals?
Yes.
And so last thing on the agenda is the board superintendent operating principles review. And again, I'll turn over to Superintendent Hanson.
Yeah, so you've had a chance to look at this. I was just referencing that a part of this document is the communication. So this is F, listening and open communication, cooperation support. So I really appreciate the effort that you have made with reaching out to our community. I know you talk individually with your constituents through email, in person, our listening tours. So this document just really organizes all of these different components of this relationship, the relationship that the board has with the district, with the superintendent, the role of the superintendent, the specificity that's identified in these roles. I really appreciate. And again, this similar document this isn't something I've spent a lot of time in the previous role. I do appreciate how it's organized. And so I think as I was looking at this earlier last week, just the idea of that and what I've identified. And I think that as I'm sharing with you evidence of my efforts, this is a perfect document to identify some of those things that are highlighted or prioritized as far as this relationship that we have. Any thoughts or wonders you had about this document? No.
I've seen it before. I mean, it's good to have such a document. I think it really is, kind of puts the framework on roles and
Yes.
the roles we have as opposed to the roles you have and
Yeah.
the roles each of us
Yeah.
have that are different from each other.
Right.
It's great.
When I think about the decisions that you make and what you're asking us to do and prioritize, and I think about the idea of outreach to small businesses and our community and sharing with them just how we operate, right? There's a clear difference, and Jane, you probably will see like difference between education and the decisions, how we make decisions, staffing wise, statute that we are required to follow. That small businesses and large businesses aren't necessarily following. And so just communicating that and helping individuals understand, but also leaning into what they're experiencing as a result of decisions that we make. Okay.
Okay, any comments, input from anyone? Any further discussion, Aaron, or
No.
in that case, I will call this meeting to adjourn.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.